Hi guys, it's Charla from That Girl Cooks Healthy. So today I'm going to show you how to make these delicious, super easy Caribbean style roasted sweet potatoes. So these are the ingredients that you are going to need. You're going to need some sweet potatoes, and the sweet potatoes that I'm using are the Caribbean style ones. These are the ones that are different from the ones that you use in, for example, North America and England, where you have the orange flesh. So the ones that I'm using are Caribbean ones, and they have a red skin, and the inside the flesh is more of a creamy white color. So those are the ones that you want to use, and that makes that distinction in terms of why they're specifically Caribbean sweet potatoes. I'm also using some curry powder. Have some seasoning, more seasoning should I say. So I have some shadow benny. So I have dried shadow benny, and I will show you guys how I've dried it because it's really hard to get it fresh, and I tend to dry it more to preserve it. So that's also known as spirit weed. I have paprika, some garlic and onion granules. If you don't have the granulated form of these spices, you can use the powdered version. I have more curry powder, pink salt, black pepper. I also have some thyme, and I have some olive oil as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how I chop the sweet potato. So you're going to notice that I keep the skin on. This is optional, and most of the time when I'm working with sweet potato, I remove the skin, but on this occasion I left it on. I also must emphasize as well that I washed and scrubbed the heck out of the sweet potato. So if you want to keep the skin on, then I suggest you wash and scrub the sweet potato. You also need to inspect the quality of the skin as well. Sometimes you can have some like blemishes and some little rough spots, so you might want to, that's the reason why I said I don't always do it. So definitely inspect the sweet potato to see if you can keep the skin on. I think it tastes a lot better for this particular recipe to keep the skin on. And as you can see, I'm just slicing the sweet potato first of all, and then I'm following it up by cutting it into quarters. You want to keep the size of the chopped sweet potato near enough the same if possible. So you just want to keep it near enough the same because it's also going to allow the sweet potato pieces to roast at the same time. And you'll also see as well that I'm literally, when I'm cutting it as well, you can't see it, but I'm telling you guys that I'm inspecting it for any little spots as well. Like now, apart from the sweet potato trying to run away, I'm just cutting out a little piece there that I wasn't really too happy with and I didn't want to roast. So I did that, and then just literally continued with chopping the potatoes. So I'm just showing you that one, and then I'm going to move on to showing what they look like after I've completely chopped them. So this is what your sweet potatoes should look like once they have been chopped. So they're nice and even and pretty much the same size, and that's really what you really need to do. So the next thing you need to do is to parboil the sweet potatoes. So I'm doing that, and when I do that, I'm also adding the curry powder. Well, some of the curry powder, not all of it, just some of the curry powder. And I'm doing that as well to give the sweet potatoes a nice brown to yellowish hull. So that's why I'm adding the the curry powder now, so I can you'll see once I've finished parboiling it that it's going to be more of a yellow color. So you only need to do that for a few minutes. So now I'm going to check the sweet potato after a few minutes. So I'm removing the lid and I'm just going to grab a fork and I'm just going to prick the sweet potato. You don't want it to be cooked, you just literally boiling it for a few minutes, and it's very like slightly tender, and that's really the soft sweet spot of what you need. So the next thing that you need to do is to drain off the water, and I'm doing that in a colander so I can catch the sweet potato once I've poured it out. And the next thing I'm going to do after I've done that is I'm going to prevent the sweet potato from cooking further by just turning the tap on the sweet potato and just rotating the colander, just to make sure that the water is saturating it's cold water, saturating all of the sweet potato, and that is going to prevent it from cooking any further, and it will cool it down. So now I'm going to lay down some kitchen towel, and once I've laid down that kitchen towel, I'm just going to pour the sweet potatoes from the colander and transfer it onto the kitchen towel, and I'm just going to bloat the sweet potatoes dry. You just want to make sure that you've got rid of the water, so any excess water, this is the time when you will use the kitchen towel to get rid of all of that. So now I'm going to combine all of the seasoning together. I already have my seasoning in a small bowl, so I'm just using a teaspoon just to mix all of it together, just to make sure that all of the herbs and spices are evenly distributed. So now I'm going to add the sweet potato to a secure bag. So I'm using a bag with some handles because I don't have a Ziploc bag. But the most important thing is that whatever bag you use is secure. So you want to make sure that whether it's a zip bag or I call it a tie handle bag, whichever one you use, make sure that you can secure it, because we're going to shake this bag. So now I'm going to just drizzle in the olive oil, tie the bag together to secure it, and give it a really good shake. So I've untied the bag, and the next thing that I'm going to do is add all of the seasoning. And it might seem like a lot of seasoning, but trust me, it's just the right amount that you need to make the sweet potatoes taste delicious. Once I've added that seasoning, I'm just going to tie the bag up again and secure it and give it a really good shake. I will forewarn you guys that the sweet potatoes are not going to be as crispy as the regular conventional ones. The reason for this is with sweet potatoes in general, it's very difficult to get that crispiness, and that's because they tend to hold a lot more water. So people have tips and hacks on how to make them crispy, but most of the time, unless you deep fry them, you don't really get much of a crispiness. But trust me, these ones are going to be tasty. So I'm just untying that bag now, and we're just going to have a quick look at them, and you can see that the seasoning is just all over them. And trust me, this is going to taste amazing. And we're going to now add them to our baking tray and roast them. So now I'm going to transfer the sweet potatoes on to my baking tray with parchment paper. I've added a little bit of oil and just coated the parchment paper with a bit of olive oil. And when I add those sweet potatoes, I'm just going to arrange it where it's evenly distributed. As a general rule of thumb, you don't really want to overcrowd the pan, but at the same time, because these potatoes are not going to be crispy, it doesn't really matter that much. You want to make sure that you definitely don't have too many on the pan, but at the same time, it's not really a big deal because the potatoes aren't really going to be that crispy. So usually when people say that, it's because the potatoes are going to steam instead. But in this instance, you don't really need to worry about that. You just want to make sure that you give it enough space. So I'm just moving them around a bit just to make sure that none of them are on top of each other, and they all have a little place on the baking tray. So this is what they look like after I have baked them, and I'm just going to just sprinkle some salt and pepper on them as well, and you can just do that before you're serving them. And this is pretty much what they should look like. You can see that as they've baked in the oven, or roasted should I say, in the oven, that the color of the potatoes are more of a brown, like a reddish brown type of mustard color, as opposed to a bright yellow color. And that's pretty much normal for what you would expect. But anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to comment and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you give this recipe a try.